The gurney slammed through the emergency bay doors with enough force to crack the rubber stoppers against the wall. Blood pooled beneath the patient's torso, dripping in fat crimson drops that scattered across the linoleum like loose change. A woman in scrubs stepped forward instinctively, then froze mid-reach when the dog raised its head. It wasn't barking, wasn't growling, just staring. The Belgian Malinois sat rigid on the dying man's chest, 70 pounds of coiled muscle in training, its eyes locked on every hand that came close. One nurse tried anyway. The animal's lip curled back, revealing teeth that had torn through combat vests in 3 continents. "Get that thing off him," someone shouted. Nobody moved. The man on the gurney wasn't breathing right, chest rising in shallow, uneven jerks, pulse thready, blood pressure dropping. He had maybe 2 minutes before his brain started shutting down, and the only thing standing between him and a trauma team was a dog that looked ready to rip through bone. Then Emily Carter stepped into the room, quiet, small-framed, the kind of nurse people talked over in meetings and forgot to invite to lunch. She didn't say a word, just walked up to the gurney, met the dog's eyes, and held out her hand, palm down. The animal dropped to the floor like it had been given a direct order. Everyone in that room went still. Emily didn't look at them. She pressed 2 fingers to the patient's neck, checked his airway, and started barking instructions in a voice that didn't shake, didn't hesitate, didn't ask for permission. Within 30 seconds, she had IV access. Within 60, she'd stabilized his airway, and by the time the trauma surgeon arrived, she was already 3 steps ahead. The dog sat at her feet, calm, obedient, watching her like she was the only person in the building who mattered. Someone in the back whispered, "Who the hell is she?" They were about to find out. Bob, if you want to see how this story ends, if you want to know what Emily Carter really is and why that dog obeyed her like a soldier following orders, then stay with me until the very last word. Drop a comment with the city you're watching from so I can see how far this story travels. Hit that like button, and whatever you do, don't skip ahead. The hospital had a way of making people invisible. Emily had learned that her first week at Redwood Harbor Medical Center, back when she still expected things like eye contact during handoff.
Reports or acknowledgement when she flagged a medication error. She'd stopped expecting it 6 months ago. Now she just did her job. The morning had started normal enough. 2 post-ops recovering from gallbladder removals, 1 geriatric hip fracture who kept trying to climb out of bed, and a diabetic ketoacidosis case who'd come in after ignoring his insulin regimen for 3 weeks straight. Standard fare for the medical surgical floor. Emily had finished her morning assessments by 7, charted everything by 8, and was halfway through a dressing change when the overhead page crackled to life. Code red, emergency department. Code red, all available personnel to ED. She snapped off her gloves, told the patient she'd be back, and took the stairs 2 at a time. By the time she hit the ground floor, the hallway was already clogged with people moving too slow, asking too many questions, getting in each other's way. Emily slipped past them and pushed through the double doors. The scene inside looked like controlled chaos, trying very hard not to tip over into the uncontrolled kind. Paramedics were shouting vitals. A resident was yelling for O negative. Someone had knocked over a crash cart and nobody had bothered to pick it up. And in the center of it all, on a gurney surrounded by people who didn't know what to do, was the man with the dog on his chest. Emily took it in fast. Late 20s, maybe early 30s, tactical pants torn and scorched along one leg. No shirt. Someone had cut it off in the field. Gunshot wound. High right thorax. Entry visible. No exit. Pleuropneumonia probable. Blood loss significant, but not immediately fatal if they moved fast. His face was pale, lips starting to go dusky, respirations labored and uneven. The dog was a different problem. It sat square in the middle of his sternum, ears forward, eyes scanning every person in the room like it was deciding who to take down first. Its vest said Canine Unit in faded block letters, and there was a smear of blood across its shoulder that didn't look like its own. "Someone get animal control," the charge nurse said. "We don't have time for animal control," the trauma surgeon snapped. Dr. Raymond Kellerman, 50-something, silver hair, ego the size of his office. He was good at his job and made sure everyone knew it. "Sedate the dog with what?" someone asked. "I don't care. Ketamine, propofol, whatever gets it off him." Emily stepped forward. "Don't." Kellerman didn't even look at her. "Excuse me? Don't sedate the
dog. It won't work fast enough and you'll just agitate it." "And you are?" "Emily Carter. MedSurg." "Great. Go back to MedSurg." He turned to the resident. "Get me a..." "Let me try," Emily said. Now he looked at her, not with interest, with irritation. "Try what, exactly?" "Talking to it?" Someone laughed. Kellerman's expression didn't change. "We don't have time for this. You don't have time to waste sedating an 80-pound combat dog that's been trained to guard wounded personnel under fire," Emily said. Her voice was calm, flat.
The kind of tone that didn't invite argument because it wasn't asking for permission. Let me try. If it doesn't work, you can do it your way. Kellerman looked at her for 3 long seconds. Then he stepped back and gestured at the gurney. You've got 30 seconds. Emily walked up slowly. No sudden movements. Hands visible. Relaxed. Non-threatening. She didn't look at the patient, didn't look at the wound, just at the dog. It tracked her. Head tilting slightly. Ears swiveling. She stopped 2 feet away and lowered herself into a crouch. Eye level. Non-dominant. Easy, she said. Low, steady. You did good. You kept him safe. Now it's my turn. The dog's ears flicked. Emily held out her hand, palm down, fingers loose. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the animal shifted just slightly and pressed its nose to her knuckles. She stayed still, let it send her, waited. The dog huffed once, then stepped off the patient's chest and sat at Emily's feet. The room went dead silent. Emily stood, gestured to the trauma team, and said, "He's all yours." Kellerman stared at her like she just pulled a grenade pen with her teeth, then snapped back into action. "Move. I want a chest tube tray, 2 units of ONEG, and get me a portable x-ray in here now." The room exploded into motion. Emily stayed where she was, one hand resting lightly on the dog's head. It leaned into her leg, panting softly, watching the doctor swarm its handler with the kind of focused intensity that said it understood exactly what was happening. A young nurse, Melissa from the float pool, edged closer. "How did you do that?" "Talk to it." "Yeah, but it's a working dog," Emily said. "It knows the difference between a threat and help. You just have to show it which one you are." Melissa looked like she wanted to ask more, but Kellerman's voice cut through the noise. "Carter." Emily turned. "You know anything about chest tubes?" "Enough. Then get over here." She moved without hesitation.
Dog padding alongside her like it had been doing this for years. Kellerman shot at a look, but didn't say anything. He was too focused on the patient, who was starting to crash. Systolics at 70, the resident called out. O2 sats dropping, 89 and falling. Kellerman swore under his breath. "He's got a tension pneumo. We need to decompress now." Emily was already moving. She grabbed the needle decompression kit from the crash cart, tore it open, and handed it to Kellerman without being asked. He took it, positioned it, and drove the needle into the second intercostal space. There was a sharp hiss of escaping air. The patient's O2 sat ticked up slowly, then faster. "There we go," Kellerman muttered. He pulled the needle, prepped for the chest tube. "Carter, hold pressure here." Emily pressed gauze to the site, kept the seal tight while Kellerman worked. The dog sat 2 feet away, perfectly still, eyes locked on its handler's face. "Who is this guy?" someone asked. "No ID," one of the paramedics said. "Found him in the industrial zone off Route 9. Anonymous call just said there was a man down and a dog darting him." "Military?" Kellerman asked. "That would be my guess." Kellerman finished inserting the chest tube, secured it, and stepped back. "All right, let's get him upstairs. I want a full trauma series, CBC, type and cross, and someone call the OR and tell him we're coming." The team moved fast. Within 2 minutes, they had the patient stabilized enough to transport. The gurney started rolling toward the elevator. The dog stood up. Emily put her hand on its head. "Stay." It looked at her, looked at the gurney, looked back at her. "Stay," she repeated. The dog sat. Kellerman paused at the door, glanced back. "You coming?" "I'll stay with the dog. We might need you upstairs. You've got a full team. The dog needs someone it trusts." Kellerman frowned, but didn't argue. He disappeared through the doors. The noise faded. Emily let out a long breath and crouched down again, running her fingers through the dog's fur. It was matted with dirt and dried blood, and there was a shallow cut along its shoulder that would need cleaning. "Let's get you checked out," she said. She led the dog to an empty exam room, found some gauze and saline, and started cleaning the wound. It didn't flinch, just sat there watching her with dark, intelligent eyes. "You're a good boy," she murmured. "Kept him alive. That's your job, right?"
No matter what. The dog's tail thumped once against the floor. Emily smiled. It was the first real smile she'd had in weeks. Then the door opened. She looked up. A man in a dark suit stood in the doorway. Mid-40s, clean-cut, the kind of posture that said military, even in civilian clothes. He glanced at the dog, then at Emily. "Nurse Carter? That's me." He stepped inside and closed the door behind him. "Special Agent Heron Cross, NCIS." Emily's hands went still. NCIS. Naval Criminal Investigative Service. He nodded at the dog. That's a Navy canine. The man upstairs is a Navy SEAL. This is now a federal matter. Okay. Cross studied her. You handled that dog like you've done it before. I've been around working dogs. Most people freeze up. You didn't. Emily shrugged. Most people don't know what they're looking at. And you do. It wasn't a question. Emily finished wrapping the dog's shoulder and stood. Is there something you need, Agent Cross? I need to know what happened down here. Who touched the patient? Who had access to his belongings? His belongings? Cross pulled a clear evidence bag from his jacket. Inside was a small black device. Looked like a camera maybe, or a recorder. This was found on him. It's classified. If anyone tried to access it. Nobody touched it, Emily said. We were focused on keeping him alive. You're sure? Positive. Cross didn't look convinced. I'm going to need a list of everyone who was in that room. Talk to the charge nurse. She'll have the log. I'm talking to you. Emily met his eyes. Why? Because the dog listened to you. That means something. It means I know how to handle animals. It means the dog recognized you. Emily's expression didn't change. I've never seen that dog before in my life. Cross held her gaze for a long moment. Then he slipped the evidence bag back into his jacket. If you remember anything at all, you let me know. He pulled out a business card and set it on the counter. We'll be in touch. He left. Emily stared at the closed door, then looked down at the dog. It was watching her. Yeah, she said quietly. I know. By the time Emily got back to her floor, it was almost noon. The DKA patient was stable. The hip fracture was napping, and the gallbladder cases were both complaining about the food. Normal. She checked vitals, updated charts, restocked supplies, routine, mechanical. The kind of work that let her brain go quiet. But it didn't stay quiet.
Kept thinking about the dog, about the way it had looked at her, about Agent Cross and his questions, about the camera. She was finishing a medication pass when her charge nurse appeared in the doorway. Linda Cho, early 50s, sharp eyes, zero tolerance for nonsense. Carter? Yeah? Dr. Kellerman wants to see you. Emily frowned. What for? Didn't say. Just said to send you up to his office when you had a minute. I'm in the middle of what? He said now. Emily sat down the med cart and headed for the elevator. Kellerman's office was on the 4th floor, tucked into a corner with a view of the parking lot. The door was half open. Emily knocked anyway. Come in. She stepped inside. Kellerman was at his desk, a stack of charts in front of him, reading glasses perched on his nose. He glanced up, gestured to the chair across from him. Sit. Emily sat. Kellerman took off his glasses and leaned back. That was impressive. What was? The dog? The chest tube assist. Staying calm under pressure. He paused. Where'd you train? County General. 2-year program. No, I mean before that. Emily kept her face neutral. Before that, I worked retail. Retail? Sporting goods. Kellerman smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. See, that's funny because I've worked with a lot of nurses and none of them handle combat dogs like their house pets. None of them anticipate trauma procedures before I call for them. And none of them stay that calm when a federal agent starts asking questions. Emily said nothing. So I'm going to ask you again, Kellerman said. Where'd you train? I told you. You're lying. With respect, Dr. Kellerman, my background is in my file. If you have questions about my qualifications, I don't give a damn about your qualifications. He leaned forward. I care about whether you're going to become a liability to this hospital. Emily's jaw tightened. I'm not a liability. Then tell me what NCIS wanted to ask about the patient. And I told them what happened. That's it. Kellerman studied her. You know what I think. I'm sure you'll tell me. I think you've got a past you're not talking about. I think that dog recognized you because you've worked with dogs like that before. And I think whatever's on that camera, whatever that SEAL was carrying, it's connected to you somehow. Emily stood. Are we done? No. Kellerman stood too. You're a good nurse, Carter.
I'll give you that. But good nurses don't bring federal investigators to my ED. So here's how this is going to work. You're going to stay away from that patient. You're going to stay away from that dog. And if NCIS comes back, you're going to refer them to me. Understood? Understood. Good. Get back to work. Emily turned and walked out. She made it halfway down the hall before her hands started shaking. The rest of the shift passed in a blur. Emily kept her head down, stayed busy, didn't talk to anyone unless she had to. By the time 7 rolled around, she was exhausted. She clocked out, grabbed her bag, and headed for the parking garage. The dog was waiting by her car. Emily stopped. The animal sat perfectly still, ears up, tail flat. There was a leash clipped to its vest, but no handler in sight. She looked around. The garage was empty, except for a few scattered vehicles and the hum of fluorescent lights. "How did you get down here?" she murmured. The dog tilted its head. Emily crouched, checked the vest. There was a name tag. Rex. "Okay, Rex." She scratched behind his ears. "Where's your person?" Rex stood, turned, and started walking toward the elevator. Emily followed. The dog led her back into the hospital, through the main corridor, past the cafeteria, and up 2 flights of stairs. It moved with purpose, like it knew exactly where it was going. They ended up in the ICU. Emily badged in. The unit was quiet, just the soft beep of monitors and the low murmur of the television in one of the rooms. Rex padded down the hall and stopped outside room 6. Through the window, Emily could see the seal, intubated, sedated, chest tube in place, stable for now. Rex sat. Emily opened the door and stepped inside. The seal's eyes were closed, but his vitals were strong. Heart rate steady, O2 sat at 98%. Someone had cleaned him up, washed the blood off, dressed the wound, started antibiotics. Rex walked to the bedside and rested his chin on the mattress. Emily checked the chart. No name, just John Doe, and a note that read, "Federal hold, no visitors without NCIS approval." She glanced at the door, no one in the hall. She looked back at the seal. He was young, younger than she'd thought in the chaos of the ED, maybe 27, 28. Dark hair, strong jawline, a scar along his left temple that looked old. His hands were calloused, knuckle-scarred. Fighter's hands. Rex whined softly. Emily rested her hand on the dog's head. "He's
gonna be okay. You did your job." The door opened behind her. She turned. Agent Cross stood in the doorway, arms crossed, expression unreadable. "You're not supposed to be in here," he said. "The dog let me. The dog was supposed to be in quarantine. Guess he didn't get the memo." Cross stepped inside and closed the door. "You need to leave." "I was just checking on the patient. This patient is under federal protection. That means no unauthorized personnel. That includes you." Emily didn't move. "He's also under medical care. That means someone needs to monitor him. And since you've got NCIS crawling all over this floor, I'm guessing your team doesn't include a lot of ICU nurses." Cross's jaw tightened. "Dr. Kellerman told you to stay away. Dr. Kellerman isn't my supervisor. No, but I can be." Cross pulled out his phone, tapped something, and held it up. Emily saw her own face on the screen. Personnel file. Service record. Her blood went cold. Emily Jane Carter, Cross read. Born 1996, enlisted Navy 2014, Corps Engineering, Pensacola, Enhanced Trauma Life Support, Combat Medic, Deployment Afghanistan 2016 to 2019, decorated twice, Honorable Discharge 2020. He lowered the phone. "You want to tell me why a Navy corpsman with 3 combat tours is working as a med-surg nurse in a civilian hospital?" Emily said nothing. "You recognize that dog," Cross continued. "Not because you've been around working dogs, because you've worked with them in the field, under fire. That was a long time ago. Not long enough." He pocketed the phone. "The man in that bed is carrying intel that could get a lot of people killed. Someone tried to extract it before he made it to this hospital. Someone who knew what he was carrying and where he'd be." He stepped closer. "So I'm going to ask you one more time. Why did that dog obey you?" Emily met his eyes. "Because I know what I'm doing." "That's not an answer. It's the only one you're getting." They stared at each other. Then Rex growled. Both of them turned. The dog was on its feet, ears pinned back, focused on the doorway. Emily's pulse kicked up. "What is it, boy?" Rex's growl deepened. Cross moved to the door, looked through the window. The hallway was empty. "Stay here," he said. "Like hell." Cross shot her a look, but didn't argue. He opened the door, stepped out, hand moving to his hip, where a weapon was almost certainly holstered under his jacket. Emily followed, Rex at her side. The corridor
Was silent. Too silent. The nurse's station was unmanned. The lights in 2 of the rooms were off. Cross pulled his gun. "NIS," he called out. "Identify yourself." Nothing. Then footsteps. Fast running. Cross took off. Emily grabbed Rex's leash. "Come on." They ran. The footsteps led them down the back stairwell, through the service corridor, and into the loading dock. Cross hit the exit door first, weapon raised. A man in scrubs was sprinting toward a black SUV. "Federal agent, stop." The man didn't stop. Cross fired a warning shot into the air. The man dove into the SUV. The engine roared to life. Cross ran toward it, but the vehicle was already moving, tires screeching as it peeled out of the lot. He got the plate number, called it in, then turned back, to Emily. She was standing in the doorway, breathing hard, Rex pressed against her leg. "Did you see his face?" Cross asked. "No." "What about the scrubs? Any identifying marks?" Emily thought back. No hospital logo, generic blue, could have been from anywhere. Cross swore under his breath. He holstered his weapon, pulled out his phone, and started making calls.
Emily looked down at Rex. The dog was staring at the empty parking lot, ears forward, body tense. "He came for the camera," she said quietly. Cross paused mid-dial. "What?" "That's what he was after. The device you showed me. He knew it was here, knew the patient couldn't stop him." "How do you know that?" "Because if he wanted the patient dead, he would have done it already." Cross finished his call and pocketed the phone. "We're moving him tonight. Secure facility." "Good. And you're coming with us." Emily blinked. "What?" "You're the only person that dog trusts, which means you're the only person I trust to keep him stable during transport. I'm not military anymore. You are tonight." Cross started walking back toward the hospital. "Get your gear. We leave in 20 minutes." Emily stood there frozen, Rex leaning into her leg. Then she followed because she knew deep down in the part of her that had never really left the field that this was just the beginning. And whoever had sent that man in scrubs wasn't going to stop until they got what they came for. 20 minutes turned into 45. The secure transport team hadn't arrived yet, and Cross was pacing the hallway outside the ICU like a caged animal, phone pressed to his ear, voice low and sharp. Emily sat on a bench near the nurses' station with Rex at her feet, watching doctors and nurses move past without seeing her. Same as always, except now she had a federal agent treating her like an asset instead of a ghost. Her locker back on the 4th floor held a change of clothes, her wallet, and a protein bar she
Forgotten to eat. 3 days ago. Nothing she needed for whatever Cross had planned. She'd gone into combat zones with less notice and fewer supplies. But that was a different life, one she'd worked hard to leave behind. Rex's head lifted, ears forward. Emily followed his gaze. A woman in a white coat was walking toward them. Dr. Vanessa Ortiz, head of critical care, sharp, no nonsense. The kind of doctor who could intubate someone in a moving ambulance and still have time to lecture a resident about sloppy charting. She stopped in front of Emily, arms crossed. "You're Carter?" "Yes, ma'am." "Kellerman says you're off rotation, effective immediately." Emily's stomach dropped. "What?" "He called me 20 minutes ago. Said you're reassigned to federal duty until further notice." Ortiz's expression didn't change. "Didn't ask, just told me. So now I'm down a nurse and I've got NCIS agents camped out in my unit like it's a forward operating base. I didn't ask for this." "I know." Rex glanced at Rex, then back at Emily. "But you're involved now. So do me a favor and don't get yourself killed. I've got enough paperwork as it is." She walked away before Emily could respond. Cross appeared a moment later, pocketing his phone. "We're rolling in 5. There's a convoy coming in through the south entrance. You'll ride in the second vehicle, with the patient and the dog." "Where are we going?" "Classified." "For how long?" "As long as it takes." Emily stood. "I need to make a call." "No calls." "I have a shift tomorrow." "Not anymore." Cross started walking. "Your supervisor's been notified. Your shifts are covered. Anything else you need handled, it gets handled later." Emily grabbed her bag and followed, Rex matching her stride. "You can't just pull me out of my life because a dog likes me." "I can." And I did. Cross pushed through the stairwell door, taking the steps 2 at a time. "That SEAL upstairs is carrying intelligence that could prevent a terrorist attack on U.S. soil. Someone inside this hospital tried to get to him, which means someone inside this hospital is compromised. Until I know who, everyone's a suspect, including you. Then why bring me? Because the dog trusts you. And right now, that dog's the only thing I trust." They hit the ground floor and moved through a back corridor Emily had never used before. Service entrance, dimly lit, smelling like disinfectant and old coffee. Cross badged through a security door, and they stepped into the loading
Bay. 3 black SUVs idled in the shadows, exhaust curling in the cold night air. Armed agents in tactical gear stood at intervals, scanning rooftops, checking sightlines. This wasn't a transport. It was an extraction. A tall man in his 50s stepped forward, gray hair, square jaw, eyes that looked like they'd seen every bad thing twice, and still got up in the morning. He nodded at Cross. "This her?" "Emily Carter, former Navy corpsman, the dog's handler." The man studied her. "Commander Isaac Draven, I'm running this operation. You do what Agent Cross tells you, when he tells you. No questions, no hesitation." "Understood." "Understood." Draven turned to Cross. "Patient stable for transport. As stable as he's going to get." Dr. Ortiz sighed off. "Good. Let's move." The loading bay doors opened, and a gurney rolled out, flanked by 2 ICU nurses and a respiratory therapist. The SEAL was still intubated, still unconscious, monitors beeping steadily, as they transferred him into the second SUV. The interior had been converted,
into a mobile ICU, portable ventilator, IV pumps, defibrillator. Enough medical equipment to run a small emergency room. Emily climbed in after them, Rex jumping up beside her without being told. The dog settled on the floor near the SEAL's head, eyes locked on his face. Cross slid into the front passenger seat. "We're good. Go." The convoy pulled out. Emily strapped in and checked the monitors. Heart rate 72, blood pressure stable, O2 sat at 96. The chest tube was draining pink fluid, normal for this stage of recovery. Everything looked solid. One of the ICU nurses, young, maybe mid-20s, name tag reading Brooks, glanced at her. "You worked trauma before?" "Something like that." "You're the one who handled the dog in the ED?" "Yeah." Brooks looked at Rex. "I've never seen anything like that. It was like he knew you." Emily didn't answer. They drove in silence for 20 minutes, winding through back roads, avoiding highways. The city lights faded behind them, replaced by darkness and stretches of empty farmland. Emily kept her eyes on the monitors, one hand resting on Rex's head. Then the radio crackled. "Lead vehicle, we've got a tail, black sedan, no plates, picked us up 2 miles back." Cross grabbed the handset. "Confirmed. Confirmed. He's maintaining distance but matching our turns." Draymond's voice cut in from the lead SUV. "Lose him. Take the next right and double back through the industrial park." The convoy shifted.
Sharp turn, sudden acceleration. Emily braced herself as the SUV lurched, the monitor swaying but holding steady. Brooks grabbed the IV pole to keep it from tipping. "Still on us," the driver reported. Cross swore under his breath. "How many vehicles?" "Just the one." "Wait, no. Second vehicle joining from the east. Great pickup." Draven's voice went cold. "They're boxing us in. All units, evasive maneuvers, do not engage unless fired upon." The SUV swerved hard, throwing Emily against the side panel. Rex shifted his weight, staying balanced, eyes never leaving the SEAL. "We've got a problem," the driver said. "Roadblock ahead. 2 trucks parked sideways. Ram it," Draven ordered. "Sir, ram it." The lead vehicle surged forward. I heard the impact, metal shrieking, glass shattering, and then they were through, debris scattering across the road. The second SUV followed, bouncing over wreckage, and Emily's head slammed into the seat backed hard enough to make her vision blur. Brooks was pale, hands shaking. "What the hell is happening?" "Stay focused," Emily said. "Keep that IV line secure." Gunfire erected behind them. The rear window spiderwebbed but didn't shatter. Bulletproof glass. The driver floored it, the engine roaring as they pulled ahead. "Lead vehicle's been hit," someone reported. "Front tire's blown. We're losing speed." Draven didn't hesitate. "Transfer to vehicle 2. Move." The convoy screeched to a halt. Doors flew open. I saw agents pouring out of the lead SUV, weapons drawn, laying down suppressing fire. Draven and 2 others sprinted toward Emily's vehicle and piled in. "Go, go, go!" The driver didn't need to be told twice. They peeled out, leaving the damaged SUV and the third vehicle behind to hold off the pursuit. Emily checked the SEAL. His vitals had spiked, heart rate climbing, blood pressure rising, stress response, even unconscious. She adjusted the sedation drip, kept her voice calm. "You're okay. We've got you." Rex wheezed. Draven twisted in his seat. "How's the patient?" "Stable for now." "For now doesn't cut it." "Then stop slamming us into roadblocks." Draven's jaw tightened, but he didn't argue. Cross was on the radio, coordinating with whoever was still behind them. Status: 3 hostiles neutralized, 1 vehicle disabled, the rest broke off. "Where's the gray pickup?" Silence. Then, unknown. "Lost visual." "Find it." The SUV took another sharp turn, this time onto a gravel road that cut through dense
Woods. The headlights swept over trees, broken fences, an old barn collapsing under its own weight. Middle of nowhere. Perfect place for an ambush. Emily's pulse was steady. Hands steady. She'd been here before. In convoy vehicles taking fire in Kandahar, and medevac choppers struggling to stay airborne while insurgents lit up the sky. This wasn't new. It was just louder. The gravel road opened into a clearing. A helicopter sat in the center, rotors already spinning, side door open. "That's our ride," Draven said. 60 seconds, let's move." The SUV barely stopped before everyone was out. Emily and Brooks grabbed the gurney, collapsed the legs, and started rolling toward the chopper. Rex stayed glued to Emily's side, low and fast, moving like he'd done this 100 times. They were halfway there when headlights cut through the trees. The gray pickup. It came in fast, no hesitation, and slammed to a stop 20 yards away. 2 men jumped out, both armed. Draven raised his weapon. "Federal agents, drop your weapons." The men opened fire. Emily hit the ground, pulling the gurney down with her. Brooks screamed. Rex lunged forward, snarling, putting himself between Emily and the shooters. Draven and Cross returned fire. One of the men went down. The other ducked behind the truck, then broke for the tree line. "Stay with the patient," Cross shouted at Emily, then took off after him. Draven covered the chopper as Emily and Brooks scrambled to get the gurney moving again. The SEAL's monitors were going haywire, heart rate spiking, alarms blaring. Emily didn't stop, couldn't stop. She shoved the gurney toward the helicopter, Brooks stumbling beside her, and together they heaved it inside. The pilot didn't wait. The chopper lifted off the second they were clear, the world tilting as they climbed fast and hard. Emily strapped the gurney down, checked the line, silenced the alarms. The SEAL's eyes were moving under his lids, REM. Dreaming or fighting. Maybe both. Brooks was hyperventilating. Oh my God, oh my God. Breathe, Emily said. In through your nose, out through your mouth. Brooks tried, failed, tried again. Rex climbed up beside the SEAL and rested his head on the man's arm. The chopper banged hard, and through the open door, Emily could see the clearing below. Draven and Cross still on the ground, weapons trained on the tree line. Then the helicopter gained altitude, and the clearing disappeared into darkness. The pilot's voice crackled over the headset.
ETA-2 facility is 12 minutes. Medical teams on standby. Emily nodded even though he couldn't see her. She checked the IV, adjusted the ventilator settings, made sure the chest tube hadn't kinked during the chaos. Everything was holding, barely. Brooks finally got her breathing under control. Is this normal for you? No, you look like it is. Emily met her eyes. I'm good at pretending. They flew in silence after that. The landscape below was a black void, broken only by scattered lights from farmhouses and small towns. Emily didn't know where they were, didn't know where they were going. Didn't matter. The mission was the same. Keep the patient alive. The facility appeared out of nowhere, a sprawling complex carved into the side of a mountain, surrounded by fencing and guard towers. Military installation. Black site. Maybe the kind of place that didn't show up on maps. The chopper touched down on a rooftop helipad. Doors flew open and a medical team swarmed in, transferring the SEAL to their gurney, barking orders, moving with the kind of efficiency that came from repetition. Emily stepped back, let them work. This was their territory now. Brooks climbed out, legs shaky. I need to sit down. Over there, Emily said, pointing to a bench near the stairwell. Brooks collapsed onto it, head between her knees. Rex stayed close to the gurney as the team wheeled the SEAL toward the elevator. One of the doctors, older, weathered, the kind of face that had seen too many wars, glanced at the dog. He coming too? Yeah, Emily said. Then so are you. They took the elevator down 3 levels into a medical wing that looked like it belonged in a high-end hospital, not a bunker. State-of-the-art equipment, clean white walls, staff moving with quiet urgency. The SEAL was transferred to a private room with observation windows and enough monitors to track every breath. The doctor turned to Emily. You're the handler. Temporary. Temporary or not, the dog won't let anyone else near him, so you are staying. He nodded toward a door. Scrub in. We're taking him to surgery in 10. Surgery? Bullet fragments. We need to get them out before they migrate. Emily scrubbed fast, tied on a surgical mask, and followed the team into the OR. Rex sat outside the door, perfectly still, waiting. The surgery took 3 hours. Emily didn't assist, just observed, staying out of the way while the team worked.
They were good, precise, the kind of surgeons who didn't flinch when a patient crashed or a bleeder erupted. They pulled 4 fragments from the SEAL's chest cavity, repaired a nicked artery, and closed him up without a single complication. By the time they wheeled him to recovery, Emily's feet were aching and her eyes were burning. The doctor stripped off his gloves. He'll be out for a while. You should get some rest. I'm fine. That wasn't a suggestion. He gestured to one of the nurses. Show her to the quarters. Emily wanted to argue, didn't have the energy. She followed the nurse down another corridor, Rex padding beside her, to a small room with a bed, a chair, and a window that overlooked nothing but darkness. Military standard, functional. There's a cafeteria on level 2, the nurse said. Showers are down the hall. Someone will come get you when the patient wakes up. Thanks. The nurse left. Emily sat on the edge of the bed, pulled off her shoes, and stared at the wall. Her hands were steady. Her pulse was normal, but inside, everything felt like it was vibrating at the wrong frequency. Rex jumped onto the bed and curled up next to her. She ran her fingers through his fur. You miss him? The dog's tail thumped once. Yeah, me too. She didn't know who she was talking about. Dan. Emily woke to someone knocking. She sat up disoriented and checked her watch. 4 a.m. She'd been asleep for maybe 90 minutes. The door opened. Cross stepped in looking like he hadn't slept at all. He's awake. Emily was on her feet before he finished the sentence. They walked back to recovery. The SEAL was propped up at a 45-degree angle. Intubation tube removed. Oxygen mask in place. His eyes were open. Dark, sharp, tracking movement. He looked like hell, but he was conscious. Rex bolted to his side the second the door opened. The SEAL's hand came up slow and shaky and rested on the dog's head. His lips moved under the mask. Cross pulled up a chair. Can you hear me? The SEAL nodded. I'm Special Agent Heron Cross, NCIS. You were ambushed and left for dead. Do you remember? Another nod.
Do you remember what you were carrying? The SEAL's eyes flicked to Emily, then back to Cross. He pulled the oxygen mask down. His voice was rough, barely more than a whisper. Camera, encrypted. We have it. It's secure. No. The SEAL coughed, winced, forced the words out. Back up. Hidden. Cross leaned forward.
Where? The SEAL's hand moved to Rex's vest. He fumbled with a seam near the chest strap, fingers clumsy, and pulled out a small USB drive wrapped in waterproof fabric. Cross took it. What's on this? Everything. The SEAL's eyes closed. Names, locations, proof. Proof of what? Trafficking ring, weapons, black market, commands compromised. The room went dead silent. Cross's jaw tightened. Who? The SEAL's breathing was labored. Don't know. Ranks high. Maybe flag officer. Emily's blood went cold. Flag officer meant admiral. Someone at the top of the chain. Cross stood. I need to make a call. He left. Emily moved to the bedside, checked the monitors. The SEAL's vitals were stable, but his oxygen sat was dipping. She adjusted the flow, made sure the mask was sealed. The SEAL opened his eyes again, looked at her. You were there, he said. Ed? Yeah. You knew what to do. I've done it before. He studied her face. Corman. A long time ago. Not that long. He coughed again, harder this time, and Emily raised the head of the bed another few degrees. Thanks. Don't thank me yet. You've still got a long recovery. I've had worse. I believe it. Rex nudged the SEAL's hand. The man smiled, just barely, and scratched behind the dog's ears. Good boy. You kept me alive. He did his job. So did you. Emily didn't know what to say to that. The door opened. Cross came back in, phone in hand, expression grim. We've got a problem, he said. That drive is encrypted with military-grade protection. We can't crack it here. We need to move it to Fort Meade. Let NSA handle it. How long? The SEAL asked. 48 hours. Maybe less. They'll come for it. I know. Cross looked at Emily. Which is why we're locking this place down. No one in, no one out. Full security protocol. Emily frowned. What about the hospital? You've got nothing, Cross said. You're here until this is over. You can't just... I can and I am. He pocketed the phone. Get some rest. Both of you. We're going to need it. He left again. The SEAL looked at Emily. He always like that? I've known him for 6 hours so far. Yeah. The corner of his mouth twitched almost a smile. Then his eyes drifted closed. Emily stayed until his breathing evened out, until the monitors settled into a steady rhythm. Then she stepped into the hall, Rex following. Cross was waiting. Walk with me, he said. They moved through the corridors, past security checkpoints, into a conference room with a table, 6 chairs, and a wall-mounted screen. Draven was already there, along with 2 other agents Emily didn't recognize. Cross closed the door. Emily Carter, meet the team. We've got 12 hours before NSA extracts that drive. In that time, we need to figure out who leaked the SEAL's location and how they knew he'd be at Redwood Harbor. One of the agents, a woman in her 30s, red hair pulled back tight, spoke up. We've been running background checks on hospital staff. So far, nothing. Run them again, Cross said. Someone talked. Someone always talks. Draven leaned back in his chair. What about the nurse? The one who was in the ED? Brooks, Emily said. She's clean. I'd bet my life on it. You might have to, Draven replied. Because if this
goes sideways, everyone in that hospital is a target. The screen flickered to life. Surveillance footage from the loading bay appeared. Grainy, black and white. Timestamp reading 3 days ago. This was recorded the night before the SEAL was found. Cross said, watch. The footage showed a man in scrubs entering through the service entrance. He moved with purpose, head down, avoiding cameras. He stopped at a supply closet, looked around, then slipped inside. 30 seconds later, he came out holding something small, too small to see clearly. What is that? Emily asked. Cross zoomed in. Looks like a radio or a tracker. He planted it, Draven said. Knew the SEAL was coming, knew where he'd be taken. Can you ID him? Cross shook his head, faces obscured, but we're running gait analysis and cross-referencing with hospital personnel records. The door opened. A young agent stuck his head in. Sir, we've got movement outside the perimeter. 3 vehicles, armed. Draven stood. How close? Half a mile, and closing. Everyone moved at once. Cross grabbed his weapon. Draven barked orders into his radio, and Emily found herself being pushed toward the door. Get back to the patient, Cross said. Lock the door. Don't open it for anyone but me. Emily ran. She made it back to recovery, slammed the door, and threw the lock. The SEAL was still unconscious. Rex stood at the foot of the bed, ears forward, body tense. The lights flickered. Emily's pulse kicked up. Then the alarm started. The alarms weren't just loud, they were layered. High-pitched shriek of the intrusion warning, deeper klaxon of the lockdown protocol, and underneath it all, the steady mechanical grind of blast doors sealing every corridor. Emily's hands moved without thinking, checking the seal's vitals, making sure nothing had dislodged during the sudden chaos. His heart rate was climbing, but he was still out, sedation keeping him under. Rex growled low, staring at the door. Emily pulled the crash cart closer, positioned herself between the bed and the entrance. She had no weapon, no backup, just a dog and a patient who couldn't defend himself. The lights cut out. Emergency generators kicked in 3 seconds later, bathing everything in red. The monitors glowed ghost white in the dimness, numbers still steady, still holding. Footsteps in the hallway.
Running. Then gunfire, sharp cracks that echoed through the walls like hammers on sheet metal. Rex's growl deepened. Emily grabbed the IV pole, tested its weight. Not much of a weapon, but better than nothing. She moved to the door, pressed her ear against it. More gunfire, shouting, someone screaming orders she couldn't make out. Then silence. The kind of silence that meant either everyone was dead or everyone was waiting. She stepped back just as something heavy slammed into the door from the outside. Rex lunged forward, barking, teeth bared. The door shook again. Once? Twice? Then it stopped. Emily's pulse hammered in her throat. She kept the ID pole raised, eyes locked on the door, waiting for it to blow inward or for someone to start shooting through it. Nothing happened. 10 seconds. 20. Her radio crackled to life, Cross's voice, tight and clipped. Carter, you copy? She grabbed it. I'm here. Stay put. Do not open that door. What's happening? Hostile breach, south entrance. We're containing it, but they're inside the building. How many? At least 6, maybe more. Static hissed. They're coming for the patient, you understand? They're coming for him. Emily looked at the seal, still unconscious, still vulnerable. I've got him, she said. Good. Because we're 15 minutes out from reinforcements, and I don't know if we can hold them that long. The radio went dead. Emily turned to Rex. You hear that, boy? We're on our own. The dog's ears flattened. She scanned the room. One door. No windows. Observation glass on the far wall, but it was reinforced, probably bulletproof. The only way in or out was through that door, which meant if they got through, she had nowhere to go. She moved fast, shoved the crash cart against the door, wedged the IV pole under the handle. It wouldn't stop them, but it might slow them down. Then she grabbed the defibrillator, checked the charge. Fully loaded. 300 joules. Enough to stop a heart or fry someone's nervous system if she got close enough. Not a plan, just options. The seal stirred. His eyes cracked open, unfocused. Pupils blown wide from the sedation. Hey, Emily said, keeping her voice calm. Stay still. You're safe. He blinked, trying to orient himself. His hand moved toward his chest. Felt the bandages, the tube. Where? Secure facility. You're out of surgery. Everything went fine. His gaze sharpened. I heard shooting. Yeah. How many? 6. Maybe more. He tried to sit up. Emily put a hand on his shoulder.
Firm but gentle. You just had 3 hours of surgery. You move wrong, you'll tear something. I fought with worse. I don't doubt it, but right now you're more liability than asset, so you're staying put. He stared at her. Then his mouth twitched, almost a smile. You always this blunt? Only when people are being stupid. He let his head drop back. Fair. The lights flickered once, twice, stayed red. Rex's ears swiveled toward the door. Emily heard it too. Footsteps. Slow, deliberate. Not running. Hunting. She picked up the defibrillator paddles, positioned herself near the door. The seal's voice was low. You know how to use that? I'm about to find out. The footsteps stopped right outside. Emily held her breath. Then the handle turned. The crash cart scraped forward, metal shrieking against tile. The IV pole bent, but held. Whoever was on the other side shoved harder, throwing their weight against it. Rex barked, sharp and vicious. Emily didn't wait. She hit the door with her shoulder, slamming it back, and heard a grunt of surprise. The paddles were live. She shoved them through the gap, aiming blind, and pulled the trigger. The electrical discharge was a crack of white light and ozone. Someone screamed. She yanked the paddles back, kicked the crash cart into place, and braced herself. The door stopped moving. Emily's hands were shaking now. Adrenaline. She forced them steady, reset the defibrillator, and waited. Nothing. Did you kill him? The SEAL asked. I don't know. If you didn't, he's getting back up. Then I'll hit him again. The SEAL laughed. It was a rough, painful sound, but real. I like you. Save it. The radio crackled. Cross, again. Carter. Status. Still breathing. Good. Reinforcements are inbound. 8 minutes. Make it 5. Working on it. The line cut. Emily moved to the observation window, looked out into the corridor. Red emergency lights painted everything in shades of blood. She couldn't see bodies, couldn't see movement. Just shadows and the faint haze of smoke from somewhere deeper in the facility. They are regrouping, the SEAL said. How do you know? Because that's what I do. He shifted, wincing. They hit as fast, got inside. But they didn't expect resistance. Now they're recalculating, figuring out how many of us are left, where we're dug in. How long do we have? Not long. Emily turned back to the door. Then we need to move him. Move him where? Anywhere but here.
This room's a coffin if they get through that door. The SEAL's eyes narrowed. You've done this before. Yeah. Where? Helmand? Kunar? Places that don't exist on maps anymore. She grabbed the gurney, started unlocking the wheels. Help me or... Shut up. He tried to sit up again. This time she didn't stop him. He swung his legs over the side of the bed, bare feet hitting the cold floor, and stood. Swayed. Caught himself on the bed rail. You're insane, Emily said. I'm a SEAL. It's in the job description. She grabbed his arm, steadied him. You fall, I'm leaving you. No, you won't. He was right. She wouldn't. Together they moved the gurney toward the door. Rex stayed close, circling them, eyes locked on the corridor beyond. Emily pulled the crash cart aside slowly, trying not to make noise. The handle was still warm from the electrical discharge. She pressed her ear to the door again. Nothing. On 3, she whispered. The SEAL nodded. 1, 2. The door exploded inward, not from a battering ram, from a breaching charge. The blast was deafening, a wall of heat and pressure that threw Emily backward into the gurney. Her head cracked against the metal frame, and the world went white for half a second. When her vision cleared, 3 men in tactical gear were pouring through the smoke. Rex hit the first one before he made it 2 steps, 70 pounds of muscle and fury, jaws locking on the man's forearm, dragging him down. The man screamed, tried to shake the dog off, and Rex tore harder. The second man raised his weapon. The SEAL moved faster than someone post-surgery had any right to move. He grabbed the defibrillator paddles from Emily's hand and drove them into the man's chest. The discharge sent him convulsing to the floor. The third man aimed at the SEAL. Emily was already moving. She grabbed the IV pole from the wreckage of the crash cart and swung it like a bat, catching the man across the side of the head. He staggered, blood streaming from his temple, and she hit him again. He went down hard. The room was chaos, smoke, alarms. Rex still had the first man pinned, snarling, shaking him like a rag doll. The SEAL was leaning against the wall, breathing hard, one hand pressed to his chest where the bandages were already staining red. You're bleeding, Emily said. I'm fine. You're not. I said I'm fine. She didn't argue. No time. She grabbed Rex's collar, pulled him off the man who wasn't moving anymore, and checked the corridor. Clear for now. We move now.
The SEAL pushed off the wall, grimaced, and followed. They made it maybe 30 feet before the shooting started again. Cross and Draven were pinned down at the end of the corridor, returning fire from behind an overturned equipment cart. 2 more hostiles were advancing from the opposite direction, closing the gap. Emily pulled the SEAL into a side room, slammed the door. Break room, coffee maker, table, chairs, nothing useful. We're trapped, she said. Not yet. The SEAL was scanning the room, eyes sharp despite the pain. He pointed to a vent near the ceiling that leads to the mechanical corridor. We can get around them. You can't climb. Watch me. He dragged a chair over, climbed onto it, and started prying at the vent cover. His hands were shaking. Blood was dripping onto the chair, but he got it open. Emily boosted Rex up first. The dog hesitated, then crawled into the duct. The SEAL went next, slower, every movement pulling at his stitches. Emily heard him bite back a curse as he hauled himself inside. Then it was her turn. The duct was narrow, dark, hot. She crawled forward, following the sound of Rex's claws scraping metal. Behind her, she heard the door to the break room slam open, heard voices shouting. They went into the vents, then follow them. Emily crawled faster. The duct branched left and she took it, Rex ahead of her, the SEAL somewhere behind. Her shoulders scraped the sides, her knees screaming against the metal. The duct opened into a larger maintenance corridor. Emily dropped down first, caught Rex, then turned to help the SEAL. He was pale, sweating. The bandages were soaked through. Now you need a hospital, she said. I'm in a hospital, a real one, after we finish this.
Footsteps echoed from somewhere above. They were in the ducts now, closing in. The SEAL grabbed her arm. Listen to me. That drive I gave Cross, it's not just evidence. It's names, locations. If they get it, people die. A lot of people. So we make sure they don't get it. How? Emily looked around. They were in a mechanical room. Pipes, generators, control panels, an access terminal on the far wall. Can you use that? She asked, pointing. The SEAL moved to it, fingers flying over the keyboard. It's linked to security. Can you lock them out? I can try. He worked fast, typing commands, bypassing protocols. 30 seconds later, the overhead light shifted from red to white. The alarms cut off mid-shriek.
What did you do? Emily asked. Rerouted the system, locked every blast door between here and the server room where they're holding the drive. He pulled up a security feed. Cross and Draven are clear, hostiles and trapped on level 2. For how long? Not long. They'll cut through eventually. He straightened, winced, and nearly fell. Emily caught him. Okay, that's it. You're done. I'm not. You're bleeding out. Sit down before you pass out. He didn't argue this time. Just slid down the wall and sat. Head tilted back, breathing shallow. Emily tore a strip from her scrubs, pressed it to the worst of the bleeding. Hold this. Don't move. Where are you going? To get help. She stood, Rex at her side, and moved to the access terminal. The security feed showed Cross and Draven making their way toward the server room. No hostiles in sight yet. She grabbed the radio. Cross, you copy? Static. Cross. More static than his voice faint. Carter, I've got the patient. He's stable, but he needs a medic. Where are you? Maintenance corridor, level 3, near the east stairwell. Stay there, we're coming to you. Negative. Get that drive out. We'll hold position. Carter, that's an order. Agent Cross. Silence. Then, copy. Emily turned back to the SEAL. His eyes were closed, but he was still breathing. Rex pressed against his side, keeping him warm. She checked the security feed again and froze. One of the feeds showed the hospital loading bay, the same one from the surveillance footage Cross had shown her. And standing in the center of it, talking to 2 men in tactical gear, was someone she recognized, Dr. Raymond Kellerman. Her stomach dropped. She zoomed in, hand shaking. It was him, no question. Talking, gesturing, giving orders. He wasn't a victim, he was the leak. Emmeline's mind raced. Kellerman had access to everything. Patient records, transport schedules, security protocols. He would have known the SEAL was coming, known where he'd be taken, known how to get to him. And he'd sent Emily away, reassigned her, tried to keep her out of it, because she was the one variable he couldn't control. She grabbed the radio. Cross, listen to me. It's Kellerman, Dr. Kellerman from Redwood Harbor. He's the leak. No response. Cross. The radio crackled, then a different voice. Smooth, familiar, cold. Hello, Emily Kellerman. Her blood turned to ice. You've been very resourceful, he continued. More resourceful than I anticipated. But it's Odor. We have the server room. We have the drive. And in about 60 seconds we'll have you. Emily looked at the security feed. The blast doors were opening, one by one, override codes being entered remotely. Why? She asked. Because some secrets are worth more than lives, Emily. You of all people should understand that. I understand you're a traitor. I'm a pragmatist, and you're in my way. The line went dead. Emily turned to the SEAL. We need to move. He opened his eyes. Can't. You have to. I'll slow you down. I don't care. She hauled him to his feet, Rex moving to his other side, and together they stumbled toward the stairwell. Every step was agony for him. She could see it in his face, the way his breath hitched, but he kept moving. They made it to the stairs, started climbing. 1 floor, 2. Behind them, doors were slamming open, voices shouting, getting closer. The SEAL's legs gave out on the 3rd floor landing. Emily caught him, but his weight was too much. They both went down. Go, he said. Take Rex. Get out. Shut up, Emily said. Shut up. She grabbed his arm, draped it over her shoulder, and heaved. He was dead weight now, no strength left, but she didn't stop, didn't let go. Rex barked once, sharp warning. Emily looked up. A man stood at the top of the stairs, weapon raised, finger on the trigger. She froze. The man smiled. Then his head snapped back, and he dropped like a puppet with cut strings. Cross stepped over the body, weapon still raised, eyes cold and flat. You're late. Bite me, Emily said. He grabbed the SEAL's other arm, and together they hauled him up the last flight. Draven was waiting at the top, along with 4 tactical agents Emily didn't recognize. Server room secured, Draven said. Drive still intact. Kellerman, Emily asked. Spotted on the feeds. He's here somewhere, in the facility. Cross lowered the SEAL onto a gurney one of the agents had brought. Get him to the medical wing. Full guard. Nobody gets near him. 2 agents wheeled the gurney away. Rex tried to follow, but Emily grabbed his collar. Stay with me, boy. The dog whimpered, but obeyed. Draven pulled up a tablet, showed Emily the security feeds. Kellerman's not working alone. We've identified at least 3 more hospital staff involved. They've been feeding intel for months. How deep does this go? Emily asked. Deep enough that we don't know who to trust. Cross checked his weapon, reloaded.
Which is why we're locking down every entrance and running background checks on everyone who's touched this case. Emily's radio crackled. A new voice.
This is Agent Natalie Reeves, NSA. We're on site. Where's the drive?
Cross grabbed his radio. Server room, level 4. We have it secured. Not anymore, you don't.
Everyone turned on the security feed. 2 figures in hazmat suits were entering the server room, moving fast, purposeful. "Those aren't our people," Draven said. Cross was already running. "All units, converge on the server room now." Emily followed, Rex at her heels. They hit the stairs at a full sprint, boots pounding concrete, taking corners without slowing. The server room was 2 floors up and on the opposite side of the building. They weren't going to make it in time. Cross knew it too. He grabbed his radio mid-stride. "Lock down that room. Seal the doors." "Negative," someone replied. "Override codes are active. Doors won't respond." "Then cut the damn power." "We cut power, we lose the data." Cross swore viciously but didn't slow down. They reached the server room 60 seconds too late. The door was open. The 2 figures in hazmat suits were gone. And the drive, sitting on a workstation in a clear evidence bag, was missing. Draven slammed his fist into the wall. "How the hell did they get past security?" "They didn't," Emily said. She was staring at the surveillance monitor. They were already inside. The feed showed the 2 figures removing their hazmat suits in a maintenance closet 3 floors down. Underneath, they were wearing hospital scrubs, white coats, ID badges, doctors. "Son of a..." Cross didn't finish. He grabbed his radio. "All units, we have 2 hostiles dressed as medical personnel, Caucasian male and female, mid-30s, heading toward the east exit. Intercept and detain." "Copy that." Emily's mind was racing. The drive was gone. Kellerman was still loose, and somewhere in this facility, someone was coordinating all of it. Then the SEAL's words came back to her. "Backup." She turned to Cross. "He said there was a backup." "What?" "The SEAL. Before surgery, he said he hit a backup." Emily's pulse kicked up. "When he was brought into the ED at Redwood Harbor, he slipped something into my pocket. I didn't find it because I changed clothes. My scrubs are still in my locker." Cross's eyes widened. "At the hospital?" "Yeah. Then that's where they're going." Draven was already moving. "Get a team to Redwood Harbor."
Lock it down. Nobody in or out. Cross grabbed Emily's arm. "You're coming with me. You know that hospital better than anyone. And if they get to your locker before we do, this whole thing was for nothing." Emily didn't argue. They took the helicopter. Fast extraction, 15 minutes in the air, every second feeling like an hour. Emily sat in the back, Rex pressed against her leg, watching the city lights streak past below. Cross was on his phone, coordinating with local PD. "I want every entrance covered. Anyone tries to leave, you stop them. I don't care if it's the janitor or the chief of staff." The chopper banked hard, descending fast. Redwood Harbor Medical Center came into view, a sprawling complex lit up like a Christmas tree. Emergency lights
flashing in the parking lot. They landed on the roof. Emily was out before the skids touched down. She ran for the stairwell. Cross and 2 agents right behind her. Down 4 flights, through the main corridor, past the cafeteria, where the night shift was eating dinner, oblivious to what was happening. The locker room was at the end of the hall. Emily hit the door first and stopped. Her locker was open, torn apart, scrubs scattered on the floor, her bag dumped out, everything searched. But no backup drive. Cross stepped past her, checked the other lockers. They were here. How did they know which one was mine? Because someone told them. He turned to the agents. "Pull the security footage. Last 2 hours. I want to know who came in here." One of the agents pulled out a tablet, started pulling feeds. Emily knelt down, started going through the mess. Trying to think, trying to remember. The SEAL had slipped something into her pocket. She'd been wearing these scrubs. Royal blue, 2 pockets on the front, 1 on the chest. She had checked the front pockets after the shift. Found a pen, a pair of gloves. Nothing else. But she hadn't checked the chest pocket. She grabbed the scrub top from the pile, turned it over. The chest pocket was torn, ripped open from the inside. Someone had found it. "They got it," she said quietly. Cross looked at her. "You sure?" "The pocket's torn." They knew exactly where to look. Draven's voice crackled over Cross's radio. "We've got the 2 suspects in custody. They don't have the drive." Cross frowned. "Then who does?" The lights went out. Emergency generators kicked in. Red. Again. Always red. Rex growled. Emily stood slowly, every instinct screaming danger. The door to the locker room opened. Dr. Kellerman stepped inside. He wasn't holding a weapon, wasn't wearing tactical gear, just his white coat. Stethoscope around his neck, like he'd just stepped out of rounds. "Hello, Emily." Cross's weapon was up instantly. "Don't move." Kellerman didn't. He just smiled. "You're looking for this, I assume." He held up a small USB drive.
Same size as the one the SEAL had given Cross. Back up. How did you? Emily started. I've been in this hospital for 20 years. Kellerman said. I know every locker, every hiding place, every shortcut. He looked cross. You're not going to shoot me, Agent? Not here. Not with witnesses. Try me. I don't think so. Kellerman's smile widened. Because the moment you do, my associate triggers the device we
Planted in the ICU, 3rd floor, right above the pediatric ward. Cross's jaw tightened. You're bluffing. Am I? Nobody moved. Emily's mind was working overtime. Kellerman was desperate, cornered, but he was also smart. If he'd planted a device, he'd make sure it was real, make sure they couldn't call his bluff. What do you want? She asked. Kellerman looked at her. Safe passage for me and my team, and in exchange, I tell you where the device is. Not a chance, Cross said. Then a lot of children die tonight. Emily stepped forward. You're lying. Am I? Yeah, because if you had a bomb in the ICU, you'd have already used it as leverage. You wouldn't wait until now. Kellerman's smile faltered just for a second. Emily pressed. You're stalling, waiting for backup. But it's not coming, is it? Because we already locked down the building. Your team's in custody. You're alone. Kellerman's expression hardened. You don't know what you're talking about. I know you're not walking out of here. He raised the drive. Then nobody gets this. And he threw it. Not at them. At the wall, hard. The drive shattered, plastic casing cracking, circuit board splintering, pieces scattering across the tile. Emily's heart stopped. Cross lunged forward, but Kellerman was already moving, ducking past him, sprinting for the door. Rex didn't wait for a command. The dog launched forward, jaws snapping, and caught Kellerman's ankle. The doctor went down hard, skull cracking against the edge of a bench. He didn't get back up. Cross checked his pulse. He's out. Cuff him. One of the agents moved in, secured Kellerman's hands. Emily was already kneeling by the shattered drive, picking up pieces. The circuit board was cracked clean through, data corrupted, unrecoverable. Is there anything left? Cross asked. Emily shook her head. It's gone. Cross let out a long breath. Then we've got nothing. Not nothing, a voice said from the doorway. Everyone turned. The SEAL stood there, pale, bandaged, leaning heavily on a crutch, but standing. You're supposed to be in surgery. But Emily said, I was. Got bored. He hobbled into the room, looked at the shattered drive, then at Kellerman's unconscious form. He really thought that was the only copy. Ross frowned. What are you talking about? The SEAL reached into his bandages, carefully, and pulled out another drive. Smaller, identical. I made 3 backups, he said. One on the camera, one in the
Locker, and one I kept on me. Old habits. Emily stared. You've been carrying that through surgery? Taped it under the bandages. Figured if I didn't make it, someone would find it during autopsy. Cross took the drive, held it up to the light. This better be real. It's real, and it has everything. Names, dates, bank transfers, shipping manifests, enough to take down a trafficking ring that's been operating for 5 years. The SEAL looked at Kellerman, including everyone on the inside. Cross pocketed the drive. Then, let's finish this. They took Kellerman into custody, secured the hospital, ran the data. By sunrise, 14 arrests had been made. 3 more flag officers, 6 contractors, 2 sitting senators. The trafficking ring was dismantled. The weapon shipments stopped. The people responsible were facing life sentences. And Emily Carter, the nurse nobody saw, nobody listened to, nobody believed, had been at the center of all of it. She was sitting in the hospital cafeteria drinking bad coffee when Cross found her. We're done here, he said. You're free to go. That's it? That's it? He sat down across from her. For what it's worth, you did good work. I didn't do anything, just kept a behand alive. You did a lot more than that. Cross leaned back. Draven wants to offer you a position. Consultant, NCIS Medical Division. Emily laughed. It sounded hollow. I'm a floor nurse. You're a combat medic with 3 tours and nerves made of steel. We could use someone like you. I left that life behind. Did you? Cross stood. Think about it. We'll be in touch. He walked away. Emily sat there, staring into her coffee, feeling the weight of the last 48 hours settle onto her shoulders. Then Rex appeared beside her, the SEAL right behind him.
moving slow but steady. Mind if I said? He asked. Emily gestured to the chair. He sat, winced, adjusted his position. They are discharging me tomorrow, sending me to a rehab facility in Virginia. Good. You need it. Yeah. He was quiet for a moment. I never thanked you. You don't need to. I do. You saved my life twice. Emily met his eyes. You would have done the same. Maybe. But I didn't have to. He held out his hand. Lieutenant Marcus Webb, Navy SEAL Team 6. She shook it. Emily Carter, Med Search Nurse. Former corpsman. Former. Marcus smiled. Whatever you say. He stood. Slow. And careful. Rex moved to his side automatically. If you ever need anything, and I mean anything, you call
Me. Understood? Understood. He walked away. Rex stopped, looked back at Emily, then followed his handler. Emily finished her coffee, stood, stretched, her back ached, her head hurt. Her hands still had traces of blood under the nails. She walked to the elevator, hit the button for the 4th floor. When the doors opened, Linda Cho was waiting. Carter? Yeah. Dr. Ortiz wants to see you. Emily's stomach tightened. Now? Now. She followed Linda to Ortiz's office, knocked, went inside. Dr. Ortiz was at her desk reading something on her computer. She glanced up when Emily entered. Sit. Emily sat. Ortiz closed the laptop. I've been getting calls all morning. NCIS, FBI, Department of Defense. Everyone wants to know about you. I can explain. I don't want an explanation. I want to know if you're coming back. Emily blinked. What? Your shifts. Are you coming back or are you taking that consultant job with NCIS? I hadn't decided. Ortiz studied her. You're a good nurse, Carter. One of the best I've seen, but you're wasted on a med search floor. I like med. No, you don't. You like being invisible. There's a difference. Ortiz leaned forward. Whatever you did before you came here, whatever you're running from, it's still part of you. You can't shut it off just because you changed your scrubs. Emily didn't answer. So, here's what I'm offering. Ortiz continued. I'm creating a new position, trauma liaison. You'd work between ED and critical care, handling high acuity cases, coordinating with law enforcement when needed. It's not a desk job. It's not hiding. It's using what you know to save lives. Why me? Because you just took down a trafficking ring while keeping a dying SEAL alive under fire. I'd say that qualifies you. Emily sat back. I need to think about it. You've got 24 hours. After that, the offer expires. Ortiz turned back to her computer. Emily stood, walked to the door. Carter. She turned. Whatever you decide, Ortiz said. Don't let fear make the choice for you. Emily left. She walked through the hospital, past the ED, past the ICU, past the room where it had all started. Her phone buzzed. A text from Cross. We found something else on the drive. You need to see this. Attached was a photo, a document, military record, her military record, with a note attached, targeted for elimination, high-value witness. Do not engage. Emily's blood ran cold. They hadn't just been after the SEAL. They'd been after her too.
Emily stared at the document on her phone. Her own face stared back from the military ID photo. Younger, harder, wearing desert camo and a 1000-y stare. The note beneath it was typed in clinical bureaucratic language, but the message was clear. She'd witnessed something years ago that someone very powerful wanted erased. She forwarded the image to Cross without a message and pocketed the phone. The hallway felt different now. Every doctor who passed could be watching her. Every orderly could be reporting back. She'd spent 6 months trying to disappear into these walls, and now she realized she'd never been invisible at all. She'd been marked. Her feet carried her to the staff parking garage on autopilot. She needed air, needed space to think. The concrete structure was cold and mostly empty at this hour, just a scattering of night shift vehicles and the hum of fluorescent lights. Her car was on the 3rd level. She was halfway there when footsteps echoed behind her. Emily stopped, turned. A woman in a pantsuit stood 20 feet back. Early 40s, blonde hair pulled into a tight bun, the kind of posture that screamed federal agent even without the badge clipped to her belt. Emily Carter. Depends who's asking. The woman held up credentials. Special Agent Natalie Reeves, NSA. We spoke on the radio earlier.
Emily remembered the voice that had announced the breach in the server room. What do you want to talk? Reeves closed the distance slowly, hands visible, non-threatening. Somewhere private, preferably not a parking garage. I'm done talking to federal agents today. I understand, but this isn't about what happened tonight. Reeves stopped 10 feet away. It's about what happened 5 years ago. Kunar Province, Operation Redline. Emily's blood went cold. She hadn't heard that operation name spoken aloud since her debriefing in 2020. It was classified, buried, redacted from every official record. I don't know what you're talking about, Emily said. Yes, you do. You were the medic attached to the team that went in after the hostages. 3 SEALs, 4 rescued civilians, and 1 dead CIA officer who wasn't supposed to be there. Emily's jaw tightened. That's classified. It was, until someone started digging through old files looking for leverage. Reeves pulled out a tablet, turned it to show Emily. This is the same trafficking ring Lieutenant Webb uncovered. They've been operating for
years, moving weapons through Afghanistan, Syria, Yemen, selling to the highest bidder. And 5 years ago, one of their shipments was intercepted by a CIA officer named Daniel Brennan. Emily knew the name. She tried to save him, watched him bleed out in a desert compound while insurgents fired through the walls. Brennan found proof, Reeves continued. Documents, financial records. He was going to blow the whole thing open, but before he could extract, someone tipped off the insurgents. The compound was hit. Brennan died, and the documents disappeared. What does this have to do with me? Because you were there when Brennan died. You were the last person he spoke to. Reeves stepped closer. And according to intercepted communications we just decrypted from Webb's drive, someone thinks Brennan passed those documents to you before he died. Emily shook her head. He didn't. I believe you, but they don't, which is why you've been on a kill list for 5 years and didn't know it. The parking garage felt smaller, suddenly colder. Who? Emily asked. Who wants me dead? We're still connecting the dots, but the trafficking ring has ties to private military contractors, Defense Department officials, even members of Congress. Whoever ordered the hit on you has enough power to keep it quiet and enough reach to track you across the country. Then why am I still alive? Because you disappeared, changed your name, or at least went by your middle name instead of your first, took a job in a civilian hospital where nobody asked questions. You made yourself invisible. Reeves paused, until Webb showed up and dragged you back into the light. Emily wanted to argue, wanted to say it wasn't her fault, but Reeves was right. The moment she'd stepped forward to handle that dog, she'd painted a target on her own back. What do you want from me? Emily asked. Testimony. You're a witness to Brennan's death. You can corroborate the timeline, and if we can prove the tip-off came from inside the agency, we can trace it back to whoever's running this operation. And if I say no, then you spend the rest of your life looking over your shoulder. Reeves pocketed the tablet. These people don't give up, Carter. They'll wait months, years, but eventually they'll come for you again. Emily stared at the concrete floor. She'd spent 5 years running from ghosts she didn't understand. Now those ghosts had names, faces, a paper trail. When do you need my testimony? Tomorrow. Congressional hearing. Closed session.
Reeves handed her a business card. Be at this address by 0900. We'll have security. Will it be enough? It'll have to be. Reeves walked away, footsteps echoing through the garage until they faded into nothing. Emily got in her car, sat in the driver's seat, didn't start the engine. Her phone buzzed. Cross, need you back at the facility now. She didn't want to go back, wanted to drive home, pack a bag, disappear again, find a new city, new hospital, new life. But she knew it wouldn't matter. Reeves was right. They'd find her eventually. Emily started the car. The facility was locked down tighter than before. 3 checkpoints just to get through the front gate. Retinal scan at the entrance. Full body scan before they let her into the building. Cross was waiting in the conference room with Draven and 2 people Emily didn't recognize. A man in his 60s wearing a navy dress uniform with enough ribbons to cover his chest, and a woman in a dark suit who looked like she ate junior attorneys for breakfast. Emily Carter, Cross said. This is Rear Admiral Patrick Foss and Assistant Attorney General Helen Garrison. Emily nodded. Neither of them offered to shake hands. Voss spoke first. His voice was rough, like he'd spent too many years shouting over jet engines. Miss Carter, I'll get straight to it. The intelligence Lieutenant Webb recovered has exposed a conspiracy that reaches into the highest levels of military command. We're talking flag officers, defense contractors, Congressional Oversight Committee members. I know, Emily said. Agent Reeves briefed me. Garrison leaned forward. Then you know you're in danger. These people have billions of dollars at stake.
They've killed to protect their operation before, and they won't hesitate to do it again. So what do you want from me? We want you to testify, Garrison said. Not just about what happened tonight, about Operation Redline, about Daniel Brennan, about everything you saw. Emily looked at Cross. You knew about this? I suspected, Cross said. When we started digging through Webb's intel, your name kept appearing. Not front and center, more like a footnote people wanted erased. And you didn't think to tell me? I'm telling you now. Emily wanted to be angry, but she was too tired. What happens if I testify? We take down the network, Voss said. Arrest everyone involved, shut down their operation permanently. And if I don't, then we lose our strongest.
Witness, Garrison said. Webb's evidence is solid, but it needs context. You can provide that context. In exchange for what? Garrison smiled. It wasn't warm. Full immunity, protective custody if needed, and a recommendation for the Navy Cross. Emily blinked. What? Your actions over the past 48 hours saved Lieutenant Webb's life and prevented classified intelligence from falling into enemy hands. Voss said that merits recognition. I don't want a medal. That's not your decision. It's mine. Voss stood. The hearing is tomorrow at 900. Be there. That's an order. He walked out. Garrison followed, pausing. At the door. For what it's worth, Miss Carter, I've read your service record. You're a good soldier. Don't let fear keep you from finishing what you started. Then she was gone too. Emily sank into a chair. Cross sat across from her. You okay? He asked. No. Fair. They sat in silence for a moment. Can I ask you something? Emily said. Sure. Why me? Why did you trust me when nobody else did? Cross considered the question. Because the dog trusted you, and that dog's been through hell and back with Webb. If it trusts you, that's good enough for me. Emily almost smiled. That's a terrible reason. Maybe, but it's the truth. Cross stood. Get some rest. Tomorrow's going to be a long day. What? Emily didn't sleep. She spent the night in a guest quarters on the facility's second level, staring at the ceiling, replaying every moment of the past 2 days, every decision, every mistake. She kept coming back to the same question. Why hadn't Brennan told her about the documents? He'd been dying. She'd been trying to stop the bleeding, keep his airway clear, get him stable enough for extraction. There hadn't been time for conversation, just vitals and pressure in the sound of gunfire outside. But he'd said something. She remembered now, right before he'd lost consciousness. Red envelope, back wall. Don't let them find it. She thought he was delirious, hallucinating. She'd been focused on keeping him alive, not on cryptic last words. But what if he hadn't been delirious? Emily sat up, grabbed her phone, and called Cross. He answered on the second ring. It's 3 a.m. Brennan told me something before he died. Silence. Then what? He said, red envelope, back wall. Don't let them find it. I thought he was out of his head. But what if he wasn't? What if he hid the documents in that compound? That was 5 years ago. The compound's probably rubble by now.
Maybe. But if it's not, and if those documents are still there, we'd have physical evidence, Cross finished. Not just digital, actual paper trail. Can you find out if the compound's still standing? I can make some calls. Do it. She hung up. The rest of the night crawled by. Emily showered, changed into clean clothes someone had left for her, and drank 4 cups of coffee that tasted like battery acid. By the time dawn broke, she felt wired and exhausted in equal measure. Cross found her in the cafeteria at 0700. Got an answer, he said. Compound's still there. Abandoned. Local warlords use it for storage, but they don't go inside. Say it's cursed. Cursed. 3 people died there. You know how superstition works. Can we get a team in? Already.
Authorized. Special operations units wheels up in 2 hours. They'll sweep the compound, look for anything Brennan might have hidden. I want to go with them. Cross stared at her. You're insane. I'm the only one who knows what he said, where he was standing. I can find it faster than they can. You're due at a congressional hearing in 2 hours. Delay it. I can't just... Yes, you can. Emily stood. This is bigger than my testimony. If those documents exist, they're the smoking gun. Everything else is just corroboration. Cross looked at her for a long moment. Then he pulled out his phone and made a call. 5 minutes later, Emily was being fitted for body armor. The flight took 6 hours. C-17 cargo plane, stir-stripped interior, jump seats that felt like sitting on concrete. Emily sat between 2 Delta Force operators who didn't speak to her and didn't seem to care. She was there. Cross was up front coordinating with the ground team, Draven was handling logistics from the facility, and Emily was trying not to think about the fact that she was flying back to a place she'd sworn never to see again. They landed at a forward operating base in eastern Afghanistan, temporary, barely more than tents and sandbags. The heat hit like a physical force when the cargo ramp dropped. Emily followed the team to a convoy of armored vehicles, 4 MRAPs, enough firepower to level a small town. They rolled out at noon, driving through terrain that looked like the surface of Mars, nothing but sand and rock,
and the occasional burned-out vehicle from conflicts that had ended years ago. The compound appeared an hour later, adobe walls, flat roof, windows like empty eye sockets, exactly how Emily remembered it. The convoy stopped 100 yards out. The team deployed in a defensive perimeter while Cross and Emily approached on foot. "Stay behind me," Cross said. Emily didn't argue. They entered through the same doorway she'd used 5 years ago. The interior was gutted, furniture gone, walls scorched, bloodstains on the floor that had faded to rust-colored shadows. Emily's stomach turned. "Where was Brennan when he died?" Cross asked. Emily pointed to the far corner, there, against the back wall. They moved carefully. The floor was unstable, broken in places, and there were shell casings scattered everywhere. Cross swept his flashlight across the wall. "What are we looking for?" He said, "Red envelope," so something red.
Searched in silence. 5 minutes. 10. Emily was starting to think this had been a waste of time when Cross's flashlight stopped on a section of wall that looked different from the rest. Newer, patched. He pulled out a knife, pried at the edge. The patch came away easily. Behind it was a hollow space, and inside that space was a red envelope. Cross pulled it out carefully, opened it. Inside were photographs, documents, bank statements, everything Brennan had died trying to protect. "We got it," Cross said quietly. Emily felt something release in her chest. Relief, validation, proof that Brennan's death hadn't been for nothing. Then the shooting started. Rounds punched through the walls, kicking up dust and splinters. Cross shoved Emily to the ground, covered her body with his own. "Contact multiple hostiles," someone shouted over the radio. "How many?" "At least 20. They're coming from the East Ridge." Cross grabbed Emily's arm, hauled her toward the door. They ran, bullets chasing them. The convoy was already lighting up the ridge with suppressing fire, massive .050 caliber rounds tearing through the air. They made it to the MIM, dove inside. The vehicle lurched forward, tires spitting sand. "Who the hell are they?" Emily shouted over the gunfire. "Doesn't matter," Cross yelled back. "Whoever they are, someone told them we'd be here." The convoy punched through the ambush. 2 hostiles went down, the rest scattered. They didn't stop driving until they were back at the FOB. Emily climbed out of the MIM on shaking legs. Cross was already on the phone, yelling at someone. "I want to know who leaked our flight plan. Someone knew we were coming and they tried to kill us." He hung up, turned to Emily. "We've got a mole in your team. In the chain of command. Someone high enough to access mission briefings." Cross looked at the envelope in his hand, which means whoever's running this operation knows we have the evidence now. They're going to accelerate. Accelerate what? Their exit strategy. They'll start covering their tracks, burning assets, eliminating witnesses. Emily's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "You should have stayed invisible." Attached was a photo of Marcus Webb in his hospital bed, asleep, unguarded. Emily's blood turned to ice. She showed Cross. He was already dialing. "Get me Draven, now." They made it back to the States in 8 hours, flew straight to the facility.
Raced to the medical wing. Webb's room was empty. The bed was made. Equipment powered down. No sign of a struggle. Just empty. A nurse saw them and approached. "If you're looking for Lieutenant Webb, he was transferred 2 hours ago." "Transferred where?" Cross demanded. "Walter Reed. The orders came from Admiral Voss himself." Cross and Emily exchanged looks. "Get Voss on the phone," Cross said. "Now." It took 10 minutes to get the Admiral on a secure line. "What the hell are you talking about?" Voss said, when Cross asked about the transfer. "I didn't authorize any transfer." "Then who did?" "I don't know, but I'm going to find out." The line went dead. Cross turned to Emily. "Webb's been taken." "By who?" "By whoever sent that text." Emily's mind was racing. They had the documents. They had the drive. They had testimony. But now the enemy had Webb. "They're going to use him as leverage," she said. "Or kill him and blame it on the trafficking ring," Cross replied. "Either way, we're out of time." Draven appeared in the doorway. "We just intercepted a communication. Someone's calling an emergency meeting of the Oversight Committee tonight. Closed session." "Who called it?" "Senator Paul Mercer. He's on the Armed Services Committee. And according to Webb's intel, he's also on the trafficking ring's payroll." Emily felt pieces clicking into place. "He's trying to get ahead of the story, control the narrative before we can testify." "Which means we need to get to that hearing first," Cross said. "How?" "It's closed session. We can't just walk in." Cross smiled. It wasn't pleasant. "Watch me." The hearing was being held in a secure facility beneath the Capitol building, 3 levels underground. No cameras, no press, just committee members and a handful of authorized personnel. Cross had authorization, sort of. He'd called in every favor he had, threatened 2 supervisors, and forged 1 signature. Emily was technically his assistant. They made it through security at 1900 hours. The hearing was set to start at 1930. The chamber was small, semicircular, 12 senators seated at a raised platform. Mercer sat in the center,
silver-haired and smug, flanked by colleagues who looked bored or annoyed, or both. Cross and Emily took seats in the back. Mercer called the session to order. "We're here to discuss allegations of misconduct within the Department of Defense,"
began, specifically concerning a recent operation that resulted in the death of several military personnel and the compromise of classified intelligence. Emily's jaw dropped. He was spinning it, making them look like the criminals. Cross was already standing. "Point of order, Senator." Mercer's eyes narrowed. "Who are you?" "Special Agent Harlan Cross, NCIS, and I have evidence that directly contradicts your opening statement. This is a closed session. You're not authorized." "I'm authorized under Article 32 of the UCMJ to present evidence in matters of national security." Cross pulled out the envelope, the one from Brennan, "and this is evidence of a criminal conspiracy that reaches into this chamber." The room went dead silent. Mercer's face went pale. "Agent Cross, I'm ordering you to sit down." "No." "Security." 2 guards moved toward Cross. Emily stood. "Senator, before you have him removed, you should know that Lieutenant Marcus Webb, the SEAL whose intelligence triggered this hearing, was kidnapped 3 hours ago, and we have reason to believe the people who took him are connected to the same trafficking ring documented in these files." One of the other senators leaned forward. "What trafficking ring?" Cross opened the envelope, started reading names, dates, bank transfers, shipments of weapons to insurgent groups in 3 countries, and Senator Mercer's name appeared 14 times. The room erupted. Mercer was shouting, other senators were demanding answers, security didn't know who to arrest, and in the chaos, Emily's phone buzzed. A video call from an unknown number. She answered. Marcus Webb appeared on screen, bound, gagged, a gun pressed to his head, and behind him, holding the weapon, was someone Emily recognized, Admiral Patrick Voss. Emily's hand didn't shake, not anymore. She held the phone steady, watching Admiral Voss press the barrel of a pistol against Marcus Webb's temple, while chaos erupted around her in the Senate chamber. Voss's face filled half the screen, cold, calculating, the face of a man who'd sent soldiers to die and slept fine afterward. "Miss Carter," he said. His voice was calm, almost pleasant. "I believe you have something that belongs to me." Cross was beside her instantly, staring at the screen. His weapon was already in his hand, but there was nowhere to aim it. Emily kept her voice level. "Where are you? Somewhere your federal friends won't find me in time." Voss shifted the gun slightly, and Webb flinched. Blood was crusted on the SEAL's forehead, fresh bruising around his left eye. They'd worked him over. "But I'm willing to negotiate." "Negotiate what?" "The documents, the drive, all of it, in exchange for Lieutenant Webb's life." "No deal," Cross said. Voss smiled. "I wasn't talking to you, Agent Cross." Behind them, security was trying to restore order. Senators were shouting. Mercer was screaming something about immunity. But Emily's world had narrowed to the phone in her hand and the man who'd orchestrated all of this. "Why?" she asked. "You're a flag officer. You had everything. Why throw it away for money?" "You think this is about money?" Voss laughed. It was a harsh, bitter sound. "This is about keeping this country safe. The weapons we moved, they went to allies, people who fight our enemies so we don't have to. The funds we raised, they funded black operations Congress would never approve, operations that saved American lives." "You're a traitor," Emily said. "I'm a patriot. You're just too naive to see the difference." Webb made a muffled sound behind the gag. His eyes were locked on the camera, trying to communicate something. Emily caught it. A flicker, a pattern, Morse code, tapped out with his bound fingers against his leg. She'd learned Morse in basic training, hadn't used it in years, but she remembered enough. "OF. You want the documents?" Emily said louder now, covering Webb's movements. "Fine. Where do we make the exchange?" Cross grabbed her arm. "Carter, what are you?" "Sir." She shook him off. "Where?" Voss considered. "Redwood Harbor Medical Center, rooftop helipad, 1 hour. You come alone. Any tactical teams, any backup, and I put a bullet in Webb's brain before they can breach. How do I know you won't kill him anyway?" "You don't, but it's the only chance he's got." Voss leaned closer to the camera. "And Emily, if you're thinking about being a hero, remember what happened the last time you tried to save someone. Daniel Brennan bled out in your arms because you weren't fast enough. Don't make the same mistake twice." The call ended. Emily stood frozen. The chamber was still chaos, but it felt distant, muted. Cross was talking to her, but she couldn't hear him. All she could hear was Brennan's voice from 5 years ago, rattling and wet, telling her about a red envelope while his life drained onto desert sand. She'd been fast enough then. She'd done everything right. And it still hadn't been enough. Carter Cross grabbed her shoulders, forced her to look at him. "What are you thinking?" "He's on the roof," Emily said. At the hospital, Webb was signaling. "You sure?" "Positive." Draven pushed through the crowd, phone to his ear. "We've got FBI en route to Mercer's location. Attorney General's issuing arrest warrants for everyone named in those documents. This whole thing's coming down." "Good," Cross said, "because we've got a hostage situation. Voss has Webb at Redwood Harbor rooftop." Draven's expression hardened. "I'll get a tactical team mobilized." "No," Emily said. "He'll kill Webb the second he sees them." "Then what do you suggest?" Emily looked at the phone in her hand, at Cross, at the envelope of documents that had cost so many lives. "I go in alone, make the exchange, and you come in through the floors below, stairs, service elevators, anywhere he's not watching." "That's suicide," Cross said. "It's the only play we have. Carter, he wants me, not you. Not a tactical team. Me." Emily met his eyes. "Because I'm the witness he couldn't kill 5 years ago, the one threat he couldn't tie off. Let me finish this." Cross stared at her. Then he looked at Draven. Draven nodded once. "We'll be ready." "But if this goes sideways," "It won't," Emily said. She wished she believed it. The drive to Redwood Harbor took 40 minutes. Emily sat in the back of an unmarked SUV, Cross driving, the envelope of documents on her lap. Behind them, 3 more vehicles followed at a distance. Tactical teams, snipers, enough firepower to end this fast if it came to that. But it wouldn't come to that. It couldn't, because if it did, Marcus Webb was dead. Emily's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. 10 minutes. Come alone, or he dies. She didn't respond. Cross glanced at her in the rearview mirror. "You don't have to do this." "Yeah, I do." "Why?" Emily thought about that. About Brennan. About Webb. About 5 years of running and hiding and pretending she was someone she wasn't. "Because I'm tired of being invisible," she said. They arrived at the hospital with 8 minutes to spare. The parking lot was nearly empty. Night shift, skeleton crew, exactly what Voss would have wanted. Emily got out. Cross handed her an earpiece. "We'll be listening. Anything goes wrong, you say the word and we move." Emily fitted the earpiece. "What's the word?" "Red line." She almost smiled. "Operation Red Line. Full circle." "Okay." She walked toward the entrance alone, the envelope tucked under her arm. No weapon, no vest, just her scrubs and the weight of 5 years pressing down on her shoulders. The hospital was quiet. A few nurses at the station looked up as she passed, but didn't stop her. She badged through to the stairwell and started climbing. 12 floors. Her legs burned by the 8th. Her lungs screamed by the 10th, but she didn't slow down. The rooftop access door was propped open with a brick. Emily stepped through. The helipad was lit by floodlights that turned the concrete white and washed out the stars. A helicopter sat in the center, rotor still, cockpit dark. And in front of it stood Admiral Voss. He wasn't in uniform anymore, just slacks and a collared shirt, like he'd been planning to disappear into civilian life and nobody would notice. Marcus Webb knelt beside him, hands zip-tied behind his back, tape over his mouth. His eyes tracked Emily as she approached. "You came," Voss said. "I came. Where's Agent Cross? Need to come up, but I told him you'd kill Webb." "Smart." Voss gestured to the envelope. "Is that everything?" Everything Brennan hid. Photos, bank statements, shipping manifests, and the drive. Emily pulled it from her pocket. The backup drive Webb had carried through surgery. "Right here." Voss held out his hand. "Give them to me." Emily didn't move. "Let him go first." "That's not how this works. Then we don't have a deal." They stared at each other, 2 people who'd both seen combat, both knew what it meant to make impossible choices under fire. Voss lowered his hand. "You're bluffing. You won't let him die. Try me." For a long moment nothing happened. Then Voss pulled out a knife and cut Webb's restraints. "Go." Webb ripped the tape off his mouth, stood on shaking legs and moved toward Emily. She caught him, steadied him. "You okay?" she whispered. "I've been better." Emily handed him the envelope and the drive. "Get these to Cross. What about you?" "I'll be right behind you." Webb hesitated. Then he took the evidence and limped toward the stairwell. Emily watched him go, watched the door close behind him. Then she turned back to Voss. "You don't have anything now," he said. "I know. So what's your play?" Emily smiled. It wasn't warm. "You think those are the only copies?" Voss's expression flickered. "What? You really think we'd bring the only evidence to a hostage exchange with a man who's killed to protect his secrets?"
Emily took a step closer. "We scanned everything, uploaded it to 3 different secure servers, sent copies to the FBI, DOD, Inspector General, and the Washington Post. By tomorrow morning, your name's going to be on every front page in the country." "You're lying." "Am I?" Voss pulled his weapon, aimed it at her chest.
You just made a mistake. No, you did. Emily nodded toward the door. 5 years ago, when you decided I was a loose end worth killing. The door burst open. Cross came through first, weapon raised, then Draven, then 6 tactical agents in full gear. Federal agents dropped the weapon. Voss didn't drop it. He kept it trained on Emily. You think I'm going to prison? He said. You think I'm going to let them parade me in front of cameras and destroy everything I built? You don't have a choice, Cross said. I always have a choice. He turned the gun toward himself. Emily moved without thinking, closed the distance in 3 steps and hit his arm hard, knocking the weapon skyward. It discharged into the air, the crack echoing across the rooftop. Voss stumbled. Emily didn't let him recover. She swept his legs, put him on the concrete, and held him there while Cross moved in with cuffs. It's over, Emily said. Voss looked up at her, blood running from his split lip, fury, and something else in his eyes. Disbelief, maybe, that the invisible nurse had beaten him. You should have stayed hidden, he said. Yeah, Emily replied. I should have. But she was glad she hadn't. Gee. The arrest came fast after that. Senator Mercer was taken into custody at the Capitol. 3 more senators followed. 4 defense contractors, 2 CIA officers, and a dozen mid-level operatives who'd helped move weapons and money across 3 continents. The story broke the next morning. Emily watched it from a hospital break room, drinking coffee that still tasted like battery acid, while news anchors tried to explain a conspiracy so massive they kept stumbling over the details. Cross found her there an hour later. Attorney General wants to meet with you, he said. Why? To thank you, and to offer you that consultant position again. Emily set down her coffee. What did you tell her? That you'd think about it. I don't need to think about it. Cross raised an eyebrow. No. Emily stood. I'm not interested in consulting. I'm not interested in working for NCIS or DOD or any other 3-letter agency. Then what?
Are you interested in? Emily thought about Dr. Ortiz's offer, trauma liaison, a position that would let her use everything she'd learned in combat and everything she'd learned trying to hide from it. I want to stay here, she said, at Redwood Harbor, do the job I was hired to do. Cross studied her. You sure? After everything that happened here? Especially after everything that happened here. Emily picked up her coffee. Someone once told me I was wasted on a med surg floor. Maybe they were right, but I'm not wasted helping people, and that's what I'm good at. Fair enough. Cross held out his hand. It's been an honor, Carter. She shook it. Likewise. He left. Emily finished her coffee and headed for the ED. She had a shift starting in 20 minutes, and she'd already missed too much work. Linda Cho was at the nurse's station when Emily walked in. Carter. Linda looked her up and down. You look like hell. I feel like hell. Good. Because we're understaffed and I need you on Trauma Bay 3. Car accident. Multiple.
Casualties. Move. Emily moved. The trauma bay was organized chaos. Paramedics wheeling in patients, doctors shouting orders, nurses scrambling to keep up. Emily slipped into the flow, like she'd never left, starting IVs, checking vitals, anticipating what the doctors would need before they asked for it. It was familiar, comfortable, real. Halfway through the shift, Dr. Ortiz appeared. Carter, my office now. Emily handed off her patient to another nurse and followed. Ortiz closed the door and gestured to a chair. Emily sat. I saw the news, Ortiz said. Yeah. You took down a trafficking ring, exposed a conspiracy, and saved a Navy SEAL's life, all while technically on leave. I don't think that's how HR will see it. Ortiz smiled. HR is not in charge of hiring decisions. I am. She leaned forward. I offered you a position. Trauma liaison. You turned it down. Want to tell me why? Emily considered her answer. Because I don't want a position that's about recognition or medals or making up for the past. I want a position where I can do the work, help people, make a difference. And you think you can't do that as a trauma liaison? I think I can do that anywhere. But I want to do it here. On my terms. Ortiz was quiet for a moment. Then she nodded. Okay. Here's my counteroffer. You take the trauma liaison position, but you define what it looks like, how you work, who you work with. I give you autonomy, and you give me results. Emily blinked. Seriously? Seriously. You've earned it. What about Kellerman? Kellerman's facing federal charges and a medical board review. By this time next month, he won't have a license to practice. Ortiz stood.
So, what do you say? Emily thought about it. About 5 years of hiding. 5 years of being invisible. 5 years of trying to forget who she'd been. Maybe it was time to stop forgetting. I'll take it, she said. Ortiz held out her hand. Emily shook it. One more thing, Ortiz said. The hospital board wants to issue a formal apology for how you were treated, for Kellerman's conduct, for all of it. I don't need an apology. Maybe not, but they need to give one. And you're going to let them. Ortiz's expression softened. You spend 5 years being invisible, Carter. Let them see you now. The apology came 2 days later. Hospital auditorium. Every staff member who could be spared from their shift was there. Board members, department heads, even some patients who'd heard the news and wanted to attend. Emily stood on the stage, feeling exposed and uncomfortable.
In dress clothes instead of scrubs, while the hospital CEO read a prepared statement about institutional failures and commitment to change. It was corporate language, safe, sanitized. But when the CEO finished and the room erupted in applause, Emily saw something real in the faces looking up at her. Respect. Not because she'd taken down a conspiracy, not because she'd saved a SEAL's life, because she'd done her job under impossible circumstances, without asking for recognition, without expecting anything in return. She'd been the person they could count on when everything went to hell, and now they knew it. After the ceremony, Emily was heading back to the ED when someone called her name. She turned. Brooks, the young ICU nurse who'd been with her in the helicopter, who'd hyperventilated during the gunfight. Hey, Brooks said, I just wanted to say what you did was incredible. I was just doing my job. No, you were doing more than that. Brooks hesitated. I froze during that fight. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think, but you stayed calm, kept everything together, and I wanted to know, how do you do that? Emily thought about the question, about Helmand and Kunar, and all the other places where she'd learned that calm wasn't the absence of fear. It was the decision to keep moving despite it. You don't learn it in a classroom, Emily said. You learn it by doing, by making mistakes, by failing and getting back up. She met Brooks's eyes. You didn't freeze because you're weak. You froze because you're human, and that's okay, as long as you don't let it stop you from trying again. Brooks nodded slowly. Thanks. Anytime. Emily walked away, but she felt lighter, like she'd passed something forward, some small piece of wisdom, earned through scars and sleepless nights, and all the times she'd wanted to quit, but hadn't. 2 weeks later, Marcus Webb walked out of Walter Reed Medical Center, scarred but standing. Alive because Emily Carter had refused to let him die. She met him at the entrance. Rex was with her, tail wagging the second he saw Webb. Webb knelt down, let the dog lick his face, and laughed. It sounded lighter than it had in the facility. Briar, they're discharging you? Emily asked. Medical leave, 6 months. Then we'll see if I'm fit for duty. Webb stood, wincing slightly. Doctors say I wouldn't have made it without you. Doctors are dramatic. Maybe, but I believe them. Webb pulled an envelope from his jacket. I wanted to give you this before I left. Emily took
It opened it. Inside was a citation signed by the Secretary of the Navy. The Navy Cross is presented to Emily Jane Carter for extraordinary heroism in the line of duty. She stared at it. I can't accept this. You don't have a choice. It's already been approved. Webb smiled. Besides, you earned it twice over. I didn't do it for a medal. I know. That's why you deserve it. They stood there for a moment. 2 people who'd been through hell and come out the other side. What are you going to do now? Emily asked. Rehab, physical therapy, maybe teach at the Naval Academy if they'll have me. Webb paused. What about you? I'm staying at Redwood Harbor. New position, trauma liaison. Sounds boring. Probably will be. Good. You've earned boring. Emily laughed. Felt good. Webb held out his hand. If you ever need anything, I know where to find you. They shook. Then Webb and Rex walked toward a waiting car, and Emily watched them drive away. She went back to work. 6 months passed. The trials were all over the news. Voss was convicted on 14 counts of conspiracy, weapons trafficking, and murder, sentenced to life without parole. Mercer got 25 years. The others got varying sentences, but every single one of them was behind bars. The trafficking network was dismantled, the weapon shipment stopped,
and the people they'd sold to were being hunted down by international task forces. It wasn't perfect. It never would be. But it was justice. Emily's new position kept her busy. She coordinated between the ED and ICU, managed high-acuity cases, worked with law enforcement when trauma patients came in with suspicious injuries. It was challenging, exhausting, exactly what she needed. She wasn't invisible anymore. Nurses asked her opinion. Doctors consulted with her. Even the attendees who'd ignored her before started treating her like she knew what she was doing, because she did. One afternoon, Emily was reviewing charts when Dr. Ortiz stopped by her office. "Got a minute?" Ortiz asked. "Sure." Ortiz came in, closed the door. "I've been thinking about expanding your role, creating a training program, teaching other nurses how to handle high-stress situations, combat medicine, crisis management." Emily sat down her pen. "Why me?" "Because you've lived it, and because you're good at it." Ortiz reached against the desk. "We get trauma cases every day, car accidents, shootings, overdoses, and most of our staff has never seen real combat. They panic, make mistakes, but
You don't, and I think you could teach them how. Emily thought about Brooks, about all the young nurses who froze when the pressure hit, who needed someone to show them it was possible to function when everything was falling apart. "I'll do it," she said. "Good. We start next month." Ortiz left. Emily sat back in her chair, staring at the wall, thinking about the journey that had brought her here. From desert compounds to hospital corridors, from being invisible to being seen. It hadn't been smooth, hadn't been easy, but it had been worth it. Her phone rang. Unknown number. She hesitated, then answered. "Carter. Emily, it's Natalie Reeves, NSA." Emily sat up. "What can I do for you?" "We've been tracking some chatter, encrypted communications, references to Operation Redline. Someone's asking questions about Daniel Brennan's death." Emily's stomach tightened. "Who?" "We don't know yet, but we thought you should be aware in case they come looking for you." "Are you saying I'm in danger?" "I'm saying be careful. Voss and Mercer are in prison, but the network was bigger than them. There are still people out there who want those documents buried." "Let them come," Emily said. "I'm not hiding anymore." Reeves was quiet for a moment. Then, "Good, because the world needs more people like you, people who don't back down when it matters. I'm just a nurse. You're more than that. You always have been." Reeves paused. "If anything happens, anything at all, you call me. Understood?" "Understood." Reeves hung up. Emily set down the phone and looked out the window. The city stretched out below, lights flickering in the dusk. Millions of people living their lives, working, struggling, surviving. She used to think she was just one small person in a massive system, invisible, insignificant. But she'd learned something over the past months. Being invisible wasn't the same as being powerless. Sometimes the quietest people were the ones who changed everything. Sometimes the last one to speak was the one everyone remembered. And sometimes the person nobody saw coming was the one who brought the whole corrupt system down. Emily Carter had spent 5 years hiding, running, trying to forget. Now, she was done running. The following week, Emily was invited to speak at a medical conference. She almost said no. Public speaking wasn't her thing, never had been. But Ortiz convinced her. "People need to hear your story," Ortiz said. "Not the conspiracy part. The part about being dismissed."
Being overlooked and still showing up every day to do the work. So Emily went. The conference was in San Francisco. 2,000 healthcare professionals packed into a hotel ballroom. Emily stood backstage, palms sweating, wondering what the hell she was doing here. Then, they called her name. She walked onto the stage. The lights were blinding. The crowd was a sea of faces she couldn't make out. For a moment, she froze. Then, she thought about Brennan, about Webb, about every patient she ever saved, and every time someone had told her she wasn't enough. She took a breath, and she spoke. "My name is Emily Carter. I'm a trauma liaison at Redwood Harbor Medical Center. But 6 months ago, I was just a floor nurse that nobody noticed, nobody listened to, nobody took seriously." The room was silent. "I'm not here to tell you about conspiracies or federal investigations. I'm here to tell you about something more important, about what it means to show up, to do the work, even when nobody sees you doing it." She told them about the seal, about the dog, about how she'd been dismissed and ignored until the moment she proved she was indispensable. "The system didn't change because I complained," Emily said. "It changed because I kept showing up, kept doing the job, kept being the person my patients needed me to be, and eventually, people had no choice but to see me." She paused, looking out at the crowd.
If you feel invisible in your job, if you feel like nobody values what you do, I want you to know something. Your work matters. The patients see you, they remember you, and one day, when it counts, someone else will see you too. Not because you demanded it, but because you earned it. The applause started before she finished. It built slowly, then crashed over her like a wave. Emily stepped off the stage, feeling shaky and exposed, but also proud. 2 months later, Emily received a package at work. No return address, just her name and the hospital. She opened it carefully. Inside was a photo, black and white, taken in Afghanistan. 5 people standing in front of the helicopter. Daniel Brennan was in the center. Emily was on his left, younger, wearing desert camo and a medic's cross on her vest. On the back, someone had written in neat handwriting, "Thank you for not forgetting him. Sarah Brennan." Emily's throat tightened. She'd never met Brennan's widow, didn't know she even knew Emily's name, but somehow she did, and somehow across 5 years, and a
conspiracy that had tried to bury the truth. Brennan's story had been told. Emily pinned the photo to the corkboard in her office, right next to her Navy Cross citation and a thank you card from Marcus Webb. Reminders not of what she'd lost, but of what she'd protected. 1 year after everything started, Emily was finishing her shift when she got a call from the front desk. "There's someone here to see you," the receptionist said. "Says he knows you." Emily frowned. "Who?" "He didn't give a name, just said you'd remember him." Emily headed to the lobby, curious and slightly wary. A man in his 30s stood near the entrance, dark hair, familiar face. He was holding a young boy's hand, maybe 4 years old, with the same dark hair and a gap-toothed smile. Emily stopped. She knew that face. "Do I know you?" she asked. The man smiled. "You saved my life 7 years ago. Helmand Province, roadside bomb." Emily's breath caught. She remembered a convoy hit by an IED, 3 casualties, 1 soldier with a severed femoral artery that she'd clamped with her bare hands while insurgents fired from the ridgeline. "Ops," she said quietly. "Captain now. But yeah," he gestured to the boy. "This is my son, Ethan. He wouldn't be here if you hadn't been there that day." Emily knelt down to the boy's level. "Hi, Ethan." The boy hid behind his father's leg, shy. Daniels ruffled his son's hair. "We were in town visiting family, and I saw your name in the news about the trafficking ring, and I thought, I need to find her, tell her thank you again." "You don't have to thank me." "Yeah, I do." Daniel's voice was thick. "You gave me a future, a family. Everything I have now is because you didn't give up on me when I was bleeding out in the dirt." Emily stood. "You would have done the same." "Maybe, but you were the one who did it." He held out his hand. "Thank you, Emily, for everything." She shook his hand, felt the weight of those words settle somewhere deep. This was why she did it. Not for medals, not for recognition. For moments like this. For lives saved. For futures made possible. Daniels and his son left. Emily watched them go, then turned back toward the hospital. Her hospital now. Her place. She wasn't invisible anymore. But more importantly, she didn't need to be, because the work spoke for itself. And the people she saved, they remembered. That was enough. Emily Carter walked back through the emergency department doors, past the trauma bays where new
Crises were unfolding, past the nurses' station where Linda Cho was coordinating controlled chaos. Past all of it, she clipped her badge to her scrubs, grabbed a fresh pair of gloves, and got back to work. No fanfare, no announcement, just a nurse doing her job, the best job in the world. And somewhere in the city, Admiral Voss sat in a prison cell, probably wondering how he'd been brought down by a woman he tried to erase. Senator Mercer was probably wondering the same thing. They'd underestimated her, written her off, assumed she'd stay quiet and compliant and invisible. They'd been wrong. Emily smiled to herself as she started an IV on a patient with chest pain, her hands steady and sure. She'd spent 5 years trying to disappear, trying to be someone she wasn't. But now she understood something fundamental. She didn't need to be invisible to be safe. She needed to be undeniable. The kind of person who showed up when it mattered, who did the work without asking for credit, who saved lives because that's what needed doing. The kind of person who, when the world tried to make her small, refused to shrink. Emily Carter had been dismissed, overlooked, and underestimated her entire career, and she'd used that, turned it into strength, into focus, into the kind of quiet competence that couldn't be ignored. She wasn't a hero, wasn't trying to be.
She was just a nurse who'd learned that being invisible meant you could see everything. And when the moment came, when lives hung in the balance, she'd been exactly where she needed to be, doing exactly what she was trained to do. The people who tried to silence her were behind bars now. The people she'd saved were living their lives. And Emily, she was right here, right where she'd always been, in the emergency department of Redwood Harbor Medical Center, doing the work, saving lives, making a difference, one patient at a time, the way it should be, the way it always had been. And nothing, not conspiracies, not threats, not 5 years of trying to hide, could change that. Because some people were born to heal, and Emily Carter was one of them.